The airport was alive with energy. Families laughed, children pulled at their parents' hands, lovers embraced with excitement before boarding. Yet, in the middle of this sea of joy, I stood frozen. My suitcase rested by my side, and my daughter-in-law's cold, expressionless eyes met mine. Her words rang in my ears like a cruel echo I couldn't escape. "I forgot to buy you a ticket. Go home." For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood her. Surely, this was a mistake, a miscommunication. How could it be possible that after I had spent more than $33,000 on this trip, a gift meant for all of us, that she had excluded me? But no. Her tone, her stance, her unblinking gaze, told me it wasn't an accident. It was deliberate. My son stood silently beside her, shifting uncomfortably. His eyes avoided mine, as though he was ashamed but too weak to intervene. My grandchildren clutched their mother's hands, confused as to why Grandma wasn't walking with them toward the gate. And in that moment, the dream I had carried for years shattered into pieces. The idea of this Paris trip had begun long ago. My late husband and I had often spoken about it. He would say, "One day, we'll stroll by the Seine, take a boat ride under the stars, and eat croissants in a little cafe where nobody knows us." But life rarely follows our plans. Bills piled up, medical emergencies came one after another, and Paris became a dream we always tucked away for later. When he passed, the thought of that trip weighed heavy on my heart. I couldn't bear the idea of going alone. So instead, I decided to turn it into a family memory. I thought I was doing something extraordinary. I dipped into my savings, sold jewelry, and carefully planned every detail. Flights, hotels with balconies overlooking the Eiffel Tower, guided tours, even special dining reservations. I wanted my son, his wife, and the kids to experience it all, the romance, the wonder, the magic. I thought they would remember it forever as the trip Grandma gave them. At first, when I announced my surprise, my son smiled with gratitude, but my daughter-in-law's reaction was different. She forced a polite thank you, but I could sense something hidden behind her expression, annoyance, maybe even resentment. I dismissed it, telling myself I was overthinking. I convinced myself that once we arrived in Paris, everything would fall into place. The night before departure, I packed my suitcase with trembling excitement. I laid out comfortable walking shoes, a travel journal, and the scarf my husband had given me on our first date. It felt symbolic, like carrying a piece of him with me to the city we had once dreamed of. I imagined us all standing together under the Eiffel Tower, my heart swelling with pride at the family I had brought there. But at the airport, that dream turned into a nightmare. When I asked for my ticket, my daughter-in-law's face hardened. "I only booked for us." "You should have checked," she said coldly, as though this was somehow my fault. I turned to my son, desperate for him to defend me, to speak up, but he lowered his gaze and said nothing. My world tilted. I had sacrificed so much for them, yet here I was, being cast aside as though I didn't matter. As they walked toward the gate, I stood still, the noise of the airport fading into a distant hum. I wanted to shout, to demand an explanation, but my dignity held me back. Instead, I turned away, suitcase in hand, tears streaming silently down my face. I had never felt so small, so unwanted, so betrayed. The drive home was a blur of headlights and memories. When I finally walked into my quiet house, the silence was suffocating. My suitcase sat unopened in the living room, mocking me with its unfulfilled purpose. I sank into the couch and clutched the framed photograph of my late husband. "You would never let this happen," I whispered through sobs. The man who had promised to always stand by me was gone, and the family I had built around his love had just turned their back on me. In the days that followed, I watched their Paris adventure unfold on social media. Photos of them smiling in front of the Eiffel Tower, posing by the Arc de Triomphe, laughing at a café table. Each image pierced my heart. That should have been our memory, my husband's dream fulfilled through us. Instead, I was left behind, erased from the story I had paid for. I could have let that betrayal consume me, and for a while, it nearly did. But something inside me shifted. Maybe it was the loneliness, or maybe it was the memory of my husband's words about living fully. I realized I had become a shadow in my own life, giving endlessly but never receiving. I had forgotten myself in the process of caring for everyone else. One morning, I woke with clarity. I repacked my suitcase. This time, not for them. For me. I booked a single ticket to Paris. No luxury package, no extravagant hotel. Just me and the city my heart had longed for. When I landed, the air was cool and alive with possibility. I walked along the cobblestone streets, the language flowing around me like music. For the first time in years, I didn't feel left out. I felt free. Standing beneath the Eiffel Tower at night, its golden light sparkling like diamonds against the sky, I whispered, "We made it," to the memory of my husband. Tears slid down my cheeks, but they weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were of healing, of fulfillment, of love. I explored museums, sat in quiet cafes, wrote in my journal, and even struck up conversations with strangers who soon felt like friends. I laughed, I ate pastries without guilt, I walked until my feet ached, and I breathed in every moment. Paris wasn't just the city of love, it was the city of self-love. When I returned home, my phone rang. It was my son. His voice was hesitant. "Mom, we didn't mean to hurt you. It was complicated." I stopped him gently. "No, son. You don't have to explain. I understand now." And I truly did. I understood that love without respect is empty, that silence in the face of betrayal is complicity, and that sometimes, the people you give everything to will give you nothing in return. But I had gained something far more important. I had gained myself. That betrayal, as painful as it was, became the turning point in my life. It forced me to stop waiting for others to include me, to stop shrinking myself for the sake of harmony. It showed me that I was worthy of joy, of adventure, of dreams, whether or not anyone stood beside me. So my story isn't one of loss. It's one of rebirth. I went to Paris. Not with them. Not for them. But for me. And it was everything I had dreamed of, and more. Light bulb final message of the story. Never let anyone steal your joy or convince you that you are unworthy of your own dreams. Sometimes, betrayal is the door that leads you back to yourself. And sometimes, the greatest love story you'll ever experience is the one you create with your own heart.